Let the morning bring me word of your unfailing love, for I have put my trust in you. Show me the way I should go, for to you I entrust my life. In Psalm 143, we hear these words from the psalmist that every day we need a new word of God's unfailing love, that his guidance and his leading might be the thing that we need moment by moment, day by day, plotting out for us the way that we should serve and love and honor the Lord. And in this episode, we're going to meet someone who's done exactly that. Welcome to Commending and Contending. So in this episode, we're joined by Emma Wilkins. G'day, Emma.
Hello.
Hey, Emma, where has God planted you?
Well, I'm living in Hobart. I'm married with three kids. I'm a journalist with a Sydney news outlet 2 days a week, and the rest of the time I do freelance and unpaid work. Um, yeah, so I was thinking if I had it my way, this like the work I do for the Sydney organization might not have been my first choice for a dream job, but it's actually enabled me to then pursue freelance work. So it's worked out really well. Yeah.
That's fantastic. And how has God been encouraging you recently?
It's a great question because the more you think about it, the more ways that come to mind. I wanted to share something from last year. I thought because I'm in my 40s, that can still count as recent. Which was when our church was organising a guest service, and a few of us were asked to be on a panel. And so we got together and we were decided that we'd each talk about a different aspect of just how knowing God shapes our perspective. And so we thought one of us would do our perspective on suffering, one would do kind of, I think it was planning for the future, and one would do our day to day. And I kind of thought, oh, suffering would be easy, or maybe the planning for the future. And I ended up with our day to day. And, but it was actually a really great thing to think about because I realized how much I take for granted in the Christian life. So just things like, daily being able to confess and repent of your sins and being forgiven, just every day taking that for granted, the fact that we don't have to carry guilt with us, um, God being in control, knowing I'm not my own, everything isn't up to me, being part of a body. So I've got different strengths and weaknesses, so do those who I go to church with. So there were just many things in that reminded me of daily encouragements that you kind of can take for granted when you've been a Christian for quite a long time. So yeah, that I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, that's a great story. I love that way that uh, just really little things that we maybe don't notice anymore, things we've got so used to because they're so common, and we've forgotten what a great gift they are to us, how encouraging they are. That's wonderful. But I also want to just pick up the way that you needing to talk about it to others is what helped you stop and think about it. Sometimes we're so busy rushing through things, we don't stop and think about it. We don't have ways to stop and think about it. But needing to share about it, to talk about it with others, helps us to stop and think about it. Maybe a few more of us need to take some time to share the encouragements we've had from God, so that we're prompted to consciously think about them, ready to talk about them with others.
Yeah, and even just the questions, asking those questions and thinking about those questions, even the where has God planted you, um, that got me reflecting on how differently it would have been if I had been in control and if I had been making the plans, and also how much better, like um, things that I couldn't have imagined when I was career planning a long time ago. So yes, I'm very glad not to be in control, although I don't always feel that way in the moment.
It is a bit of a tension in the moment, isn't it? Because we often feel like, oh, I really wanted that to happen and it didn't.
Yeah.
And letting go of that and trusting God is hard to do. So it sounds like, although you're now glad to be living where you are, maybe you kind of had a slightly different trajectory for where you thought your life was going.
I don't know. I guess I've never been like the top level of ambition, but maybe when I was younger, I would have kind of wanted to work for a very famous news organization or something like that. I probably at the time with technology would have wanted to work in print, not online, whereas it's worked out very well to be online. And I've just yeah, the organization I work for, my boss is very lovely, and I've got a lot of flexibility, which I now value a lot more than bylines um, and also just with family life. I haven't had that kind of competing interests where you really feel like you're making sacrifices because you've got to try and climb the ladder, um, that kind of thing. So I'm grateful not to be a famous journalist, actually. I'm grateful to just be a little one of the small time.
Yeah, God's good gift to us of keeping us kind of well contained and not over the top and actually living what may feel like a very ordinary life, but in fact is exactly the way we're going to most glorify Him with the simple things we do. Now, not a lot of us have much sense of what like freelance work is like. Many of us have the kind of jobs where, we've got a list of things to do. We know what our tasks are. Sometimes they're quite repetitive tasks. We've got to teach these kids, or shelve these products, or sell these items, or write this code, or whatever it is. What is it like as a freelance worker? What are some of the joys of that, and what are some of the challenges of that?
Hmm. Uh, well, the joys to start with are that I could kind of write about whatever I want. Within reason, because I do have to try and then sell it, which I don't always manage to do. But I figure if I'm writing and enjoying myself, then I'm it's professional development if I don't sell a piece. And so I can write. So in my job, I'm told what to write, told who to interview. It's pretty straightforward, and I'm just reporting without my own opinions. And that's great, and I can knock off at the end of the day and not think about it. When I'm freelancing, I write about what horrifies me, what delights me, what fascinates me, and anywhere from short opinion pieces to reported pieces to philosophical essays where I just go down a rabbit hole. So I've written about dead gum leaves, salad parties, hitchhikers, jellyfish, camping mishaps, pranks, books I really love, op shopping, generosity, friendship, unconditional love. Yeah, any number of things that come to mind. And my friends often joke that you never know whether something will end up in a story. But I do ask their permission if I'm quoting.
So it sounds like there's a lot you really enjoy about that kind of freedom to do the freelance writing. It sounds like it's all fun all the time. Are there no challenges?
Well, it's definitely not all fun all the time. I think the hard thing is often you finish something and you're very excited about it, and then you'll send it off, and to your first choice, you might get no response, you might get a pass, you start sending it to more places. Yeah, a lot of editors and organizations don't reply. That kind of, if you don't get a reply, that's a pass. So it's quite difficult to know how, you're always trying to assess when to give up on one and try another. And so some of my pieces have had, yeah, scores of rejections before I've published them. Some I thought I'll have this out this week, and it's been months or even years before they come out. But sometimes also in the meantime, I'll rework something because I'll learn something new and it will work out for the best. So um, that part is hard. The editing part is also hard. So it's kind of like the challenge of finding a home, but then having to submit to editing, which is great when you're on the same page as the editor. Um, and if it can be challenging and just more work as well when you think, oh, I thought this was finished, but now um, the hardest part is yet to come. So I guess a lot of it now I've got those expectations. I'm used to the challenges a little bit more, but I still have those times where I'm like, oh, this is going to be so easy to get out, and I'm wrong. And the other way around too. I might think this is going to be very hard to place, and someone will take it straight away. So yeah, it's very mysterious.
It is a mysterious thing, and it's interesting how much our own expectations play into it, our own sense of how quickly or slowly this thing is going to progress, and then it doesn't go at the speed at all that we think it's going to go.
And sometimes you think something is terrible until one person thinks it's good, or the other way around. You get one person to read something, and then your whole view of it changes. So yeah.
Yeah. And these are like precious things that are part of who you are that you've created, you've written. Do you start with just like a blank page and start typing and see what happens, or do you kind of have a kernel of an idea, or do you kind of map it all out in your mind, then sit down and write, or something else?
I think probably a bit of every. I think usually something will happen. I'll think I'd love to use that somehow, sometime. And then maybe I'm waiting for another piece to fall into place. So I think a lot of it happens in your mind first, and then you're like, okay, I'm ready for this. Um, yeah, like a trivial example is a friend was talking to us about, we were talking about renovations, and we were talking about how ours, like much to our surprise, didn't go over budget or take ages and all this other stuff. And he had this theory that like that was very unusual because most people aren't very good at their jobs. And so he just made this statement like, oh, 80% of people aren't good at their jobs, I reckon. And I just thought that's fascinating. Like I'd never had that thought before. And it wasn't, a statistical verifiable fact, but I just found it interesting. And so I ended up writing a piece just about exploring the idea, not seeking to verify it. But or I guess like I do a lot of bushwalking, and I started noticing the eucalypt leaves, all the different varieties and colors. Like I used to kind of look at our Australian bush and think it was quite drab compared to the stunning European colors in autumn. And then I started realizing actually, like the dead gum leaves on the ground, so many different colors and shapes. And so I ended up writing a piece about that as well. I actually think I ended up writing about dead gum leaves twice because I was so taken with them once I started looking.
And I think God's beautiful creation does that, right? Like there's large scale stuff where you see the forest or the incredible hills or the mountains, but then also you can slow down and look at this kind of small detail, this tiny creativity in even just a single leaf. So I can totally get why you would kind of have such an interest that you would want to write so much about that. Hey, we also want to congratulate you because you've got a book out. Is that right? A bunch of your writing's been collected into a book. How did that happen?
Well, it's nearly out. It's been a long, as with many things, a long, long process. Um, yeah, a while back I realized I just had, so I've been freelancing maybe 5 years now, I think. But it was a few years ago I realized I probably had enough for an essay collection. And I really like the idea of reading on paper versus a screen. And so because all of my work has been on screen, and I also felt like there were so many recurring themes, unintentional, that might that might mean the different pieces work together. So I just collected some of my favorites and started pitching it to editors. I started actually with secular editors. I didn't think of it as a particularly Christian book. And one got back to me with really positive feedback that said basically, you're not going to get an essay collection published if you're not famous already. if you're not a Margaret Atwood or whoever. But she said, unless it has a through line. Um, and then I don't know how long after that I realized I had a through line, but the collection is called Love and each chapter is on a different topic. For example, culture, technology, parenting, ecology, literature. Because I realized I think most of the things I'm motivated to write either because I love something in any number of the different ways love has meaning, um, or I'm sad that something I love might be under threat in some way. So then I just shuffled it all around, chose, grouped them by topic, and called it Love and after that, I'm not sure how long after that, but I ended up getting interest from a couple of publishers and have ended up with it's actually a US based a small literary press in America, and it's they usually publish poetry, but they've decided to take a risk on a random Australian author. So yeah, I had a Zoom call with the guy who runs that place and checked he was a real human being, and he thought I seemed real as well. So yeah, hopefully that'll be out in July.
Okay, that's exciting. And I will put a link to that in our show notes so that people listening to this episode can follow up and go and find that book and maybe dig into it and think more about love. I reckon you're onto something with that through line, the way that the things we love and our sense of love really does connect us to the people in our lives and the stuff in our lives and maybe even gives us a sense of God's love for us and what it means for God to have a love for us and a concern for us and a desire to provide for us.
I had actually note in the forward to the book that there's no section on kind of love and faith or love and Christianity, because it just kind of kept coming up here and there and everywhere. And I thought I can't kind of cordon that part of my life into one chapter or section. It just doesn't work like that. And I actually don't want it to work like that. I want it to kind of flow in and out of my work naturally, just because I'm not censoring myself. And so that's why there's no specific chapter. But also I don't just want to appeal to Christian readers. I'm hoping that it will be the kind of book that anyone could read. In my freelance work, I'm always trying to write for a broad audience, almost always. So I'm hoping that it'll be appeal to a lot of people and that those who don't share my beliefs will find it interesting to see how someone with these beliefs sees the world.
Where else can people kind of find your writing? Where would we look to go and read Emma Wilkins' original?
Well, I can give you a link to my website as well, which has a lot of recent work on it, as well as some older stuff.
Thanks for chatting with us today, Emma. This has been so interesting.
Oh, thanks for having me. It was a little bit scary, but I'm trying to be brave now I'm a grown up.